जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीरावनचारी यमुना तीरावनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। Parivrajakacharya Ashtottara Sata, His Divine Grace of Her Charanaravinda, Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Vallabha Ki Jai, Shri Shri Gaur Nitai Ki Jai, Shri Shri Jagannath Baladeva Subhadra Mai Ki Jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadhati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurun Dinataranam Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhobhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gauratvishe Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakhyam Namami Bhaktashaktikam Aradhyo Bhagavan Vrajeshatanayas Tadhama Vrindavanam Ramya Kachidupasana Vrajavadhu Vargenaya Kalpita Srimad Bhagavatam Pramanamamalam Prema Pumartho Mahan Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhor Matamidam Tatraudara Naparaha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So it's a nice scene to see everybody in time and seated properly. A rare thing these days in our movement. So thank you very much for being on time and coming and being present here. We are continuing with our discussion on instructive Vaishnava life stories. Yesterday we discussed some pastimes of some elevated devotees. And we've been hearing some very nice chanting of the holy names just a while ago. Nice Harinam Sankirtan. So why not discuss something about the holy name through the lives of some great devotees? And then we'll move on to some other smaller topics. We've all heard the verse, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama Iva Kevalam, Kalau Nasteva, Nasteva Gatir Anyatha. In this age of Kali, there is no other way, no other way, no other way, except for the chanting of the holy names of Lord Hari. That is Krishna. The very last verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam also glorifies the chanting of the holy names of Lord Krishna. Nama Sankirtanam Yasya Sarva Papa Pranashanam Pranamo Dukkha Shamanas Tam Namami Harim Param. I offer my obeisances to that Supreme Lord Sri Hari or Krishna by chanting whose names one can immediately become freed from all sinful reactions, and by offering obeisances unto whom one becomes free from all misery. Of course, the goal of chanting the holy names is not merely to get free from sinful reactions. Rather, it is to develop pure love of Godhead. The holy names are not different from Krishna. They are transcendental. And as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, there are no hard and fast rules for chanting the holy names. Nam Nam Akari Bahudha Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatrarpita Niyamita Smaranena Kalaha Etadrishi Tava Kripa Bhagavan Mamapi Durdaivami Drishama Ihajani Nanu Ragaha. Mahaprabhu prays, my dear Lord, you have many, many names like Krishna and Govinda. And in each of them you have invested your unlimited transcendental potency. And you bestow benediction upon the people of this world who are willing to chant the holy names of the Lord. There are no hard and fast rules for chanting these names, but I am so unfortunate that I do not have any taste for chanting these names. So this is part of the Shikshashtakam. Now there are some rules for chanting, especially when we come to chanting of japa. We use beads, and there is a certain number of rounds we have to chant minimum. There are a certain number of fixed beads. So there are some rules like that, but in general, just for chanting the names of Krishna, there is no consideration of purity or impurity, of time, place, and circumstance. For the worship of the deities, for example, there is such a consideration. You cannot go onto the altar to worship the Lord unless you have bathed properly and cleansed yourself. So there are many rules like this. But for the chanting of the holy name, there is no such rule. At any time, in any condition, not only can one chant, but one should chant the holy names of the Lord. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was living in Jagannath Puri, many of his associates came to live with him. Some of them would live there for some months and then go back to Bengal, whereas some would stay on there permanently with him. There was one boy who was a son of one of his associates. He was very young, and His name originally was Maharaja Pundit. And he was very attached to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He was also a very nice devotee of the Lord, and he had staunch faith in the chanting of the holy names. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would affectionately call him Gopal. So everybody started calling him Gopal. Now there also lived another devotee in Jagannath Puri who was very attached to chanting the holy names. And he would constantly be reciting the names. His tongue would vibrate automatically with the holy names. So that is our aspiration. One day we hope we will also be able to reach that stage when we can chant constantly, effortlessly, spontaneously, even helplessly. Just keep on chanting. That's the goal of our life. So this devotee was like that. He was chanting constantly. So one time, young Gopal saw this devotee going towards the toilet, and he was holding his tongue with his fingers like this. So Gopal was a little amused and a little curious. Why is this devotee holding his tongue like this when he's going to the toilet? So he stopped him and said, Prabhu, why are you holding your tongue? He said, because I'm going to the toilet. And there I will be engaged in an act that is very unclean. So during an unclean act, in an unclean place, one should not chant the pure names of Krishna. Because the holy name is so pure. How can I speak these pure names in an unclean place during an unclean activity? So immediately young Gopal admonished him. He said, that is not the correct philosophy. He said, what if you were to die while you were in the toilet, engaged in that activity? Then, when one passes away, one should chant the holy names of the Lord. So one has an auspicious departure from this world. So if one leaves one's body chanting the holy names of the Lord, then the destination is very auspicious. One is assured of going back to the spiritual world. So death can come anytime. And the holy names of the Lord are transcendental. So they are not influenced by any circumstances of this world. So whatever be the activities we are doing, whatever be the time and the place we are in, we must chant the holy names of the Lord in all circumstances. So this devotee was very impressed and very happy to hear this. Usually when small children speak philosophy like this, then everybody is very pleased and impressed. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu overheard this. So he became very happy with this boy. And he said, Gopal, because you have given us such good instructions about the chanting of the holy names, you are actually our guru. And therefore from today, you will be known as Gopal Guru. So his name, henceforth, amongst the devotee community was Gopal Guru. Later on, he became a very famous Acharya, Gopal Guru Goswami. How many of you have been to Jagannath Puri? Okay. And how many of you have been to Gambhira? Okay, quite a few. So Gambhira is a little room in the Radha Kanta Mutt, the monastery called Radha Kanta. The deities of Radha Kanta are there. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stayed in this small room over there. It is called Gambhira. In Orissa, there is a certain style of architecture. And outside the temple there is a courtyard. And the small room that stands by itself in the courtyard or the compound of the temple is called a Gambhira. So Mahaprabhu made his residence there. It belonged to Kashi Mishra, who was like the teacher or the guru or the priest in the court of King Prataparudra, the king of Puri. But before his departure from this world, Kashi Mishra handed it over to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then finally, Gopal Guru Goswami became the head of that mutt. He was the disciple of Vakreshwar Pundit, who was well known for dancing in Kirtan. One time Vakreshwar Pundit danced continuously for 72 hours in Kirtan, non-stop. So Gopal Guru Goswami became the head of that mutt. So somehow or the other, his name, we don't find it in the Chaitanya Charitamrita or the Chaitanya Bhagavat. But he has a very important role to play in our sampradaya, amongst the followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we can understand that chanting of the holy names is so important and it is so transcendental, it doesn't matter where one resides. Now that doesn't mean that when you're driving the car you can chant with your beads in the hand and then drive with one hand. And then say that, well, we heard in the class that no time, place, circumstance for chanting the holy names. Yes, indeed, there is no consideration of time, place, and circumstance to chant the holy names, but there is a consideration of time, place, and circumstance when you chant on your beads. Because the beads are holy. You cannot take the beads into the toilet or the bath, in any other dirty place. You cannot leave the beads just anywhere lying around. You don't usually leave the beads or keep them on a chair where you will sit down, or in any place where your feet may touch them, or any place where people's feet touch. So the beads should be preserved carefully, kept purely. So when you chant on your beads, there are considerations. So if you're going to drive your car and chant on your beads at the same time, neither are you driving well, nor are you chanting well. And there is likelihood of an accident, and this has happened on some occasions. But when it comes to simply with your mouth and heart just chanting the names, then there is no consideration. As you're driving, you can certainly chant. Also reminds me of one little story, because some devotees sometimes say, we've been chanting and chanting for so long, but we don't seem to be making advancement. We still have so many desires in our heart. So there's a little story that comes to mind, that there was one young boy who lived with his grandfather. The grandfather was a very nice devotee, and he used to constantly chant Krishna's names. So he would tell the boy, you also please sit down with me and keep chanting. So the boy would also chant. But then afterwards he would tell his grandfather that I don't think it's making any difference, because I chant, and then when I'm doing other things I forget. I don't remember the names of Krishna. So the grandfather said, no, you are. Okay, he said, do one thing. You take this little wicker basket and you go and collect water from the river in this basket and bring it. Now obviously the basket had so many holes. How was it possible to have brought water in that? But anyway, since his grandfather had asked him to, he took the basket to the river, and some water came there for some time, and he ran back, but then the water spilled out even before he had finished a few steps. So he came back to his grandfather and said, the water is empty. That basket was actually a basket of where coal used to be stored, because they would light the fireplace with charcoal. So that was the basket in which they kept the charcoal. So naturally the basket was black in color. It had become black because of the charcoal. So the boy was unsuccessful. So the grandfather said, maybe you didn't run fast enough. Try again. So the boy went again. He filled it with water and then ran as fast as he could. But it didn't last very long. Before long, the water had emptied out. The grandfather said, try harder. He tried again very hard. And this went on for some time. Finally, he said, no, why don't I just take a bucket and bring some water? He said, no, I want you to fill this basket with water and bring it. So he stood at the door. So the boy made one, and he went. And he again filled the basket, but again it emptied out. And then the boy said, grandfather, there's no use. And then the grandfather said, yes, there is use. Look at the basket. So the boy looked. And then he noticed there was a big difference. Earlier, the basket was black, pitch black, because there was always so much coal in it. But now, because of filling it with water again and again and again, that blackness had reduced drastically. The color had changed. She said, like that, my dear boy, even though you chant the holy names, you hear about Krishna, you recite the scriptures, and you think you've forgotten and you don't remember, so everything is just disappearing. You think your mind is like a sieve, or this wicker basket through which the holy name and Krishna Katha is flowing through and out. But don't think like that. Because the holy name and Krishna Katha, they cleanse your heart. Even though you may not realize it, but gradually, step by step, with every name that you chant, the heart is getting clearer and clearer. So we should never become discouraged when we chant the holy names or when we perform devotional service. We should remember that the holy names and Krishna Katha always have effect. They will never be in vain. So let us keep that in mind and never lose heart. And since we are on the chanting of the holy names constantly, I'll come to another pastime of one devotee called the Cool Mu Brahmana. He lived in a place called Cool Mu Brahmana. Cool Mu Brahmana is a place near Jagannath Puri on the way to South India. I mentioned that place yesterday in connection with Vasudeva Vipra, who was a leper and who was delivered by the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So when Mahaprabhu reached this place, he found this Brahman who was an exalted devotee. Mahaprabhu was very attracted to his devotional qualities. So he accepted this Brahmana's invitation and he stayed at his house. And the Brahmana cooked prasadam for him and served him. And the Brahmana was in great ecstasy in the association of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu went to take darshan of Lord Kurma in the temple. He chanted and danced in the temple. All the priests and all the other pilgrims who had come were struck with wonder, and they all became pure devotees just by hearing and seeing Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's chanting and dancing. So the time came after a few days when Mahaprabhu had to leave. By this time, this Cool Mu Brahmana had become so attached to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that he did not want to leave him. Unfortunately, we do not have much information about this Brahmana except that his name was Kurma. So these exalted souls come into this world by the arrangement of the Lord, and they leave behind very good instructions for us through their life. So sometimes there may not be much historical information about certain great personalities. But nevertheless, when we hear such stories, they are actually factual stories, then it is very inspiring for us and we learn many lessons. So this Brahmana did not want to stay back in his house. He was a householder. So then when Mahaprabhu was about to leave, the Cool Mu Brahmana came and fell at Mahaprabhu's feet and said, please take me with you. I cannot bear the waves of materialistic life. I cannot bear the tribulations and the challenges of family life. I want to leave and come with you. I also will take sannyas. So Mahaprabhu looked at him. He said, don't speak like this. Grihe rahi Krishna nama nirantara laiva. So just stay at home and constantly chant the holy names of Krishna. And then he told him the very famous verse that I'm sure many of you know, which is that verse. Jare dakha tare kaho Krishna upadesh, amar agyai guru hana tare ei desh. Whoever you meet, tell that person about Krishna. In this way, become guru and deliver the whole land. If you constantly chant the holy names of Krishna and keep telling others about Krishna, then you will be protected from the waves of material existence. So giving this assurance to him, Mahaprabhu left. But he also assured him that very soon you will have my association again, don't worry. Similarly, whatever be our condition in life, we may be sannyasis or brahmacharis, grihasthas, we may be whatever social status, economic status, spiritual status we may be in, we must all constantly attempt to chant the holy names. We must live in the association of devotees amicably, in a friendly spirit, never committing offenses against other devotees, but rather being in a mood where one can serve them. One should always think oneself as the humble servant of the devotees. Then Krishna will be very pleased with us, and he will give us that capacity, that taste to be able to chant the names constantly and to hear about Krishna as much as possible. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, Brahma speaks a very important prayer to Krishna. After the celebrated Brahma Vimohana Leela, the pastime of the stealing of the calves and the cowherd boys by Brahma. Jnane prayasamudapasya namantya eva jivanti sanmukharitam bhavadiya vartam sthane sthita shrutigatam tanuvan manobhir ye prayaso jita jitopyasitaistri lokyam. Brahma says, my dear Lord, your name is Ajita. Ajita means one who cannot be won over or conquered. One who is unconquerable. But still you can be conquered by your loving devotees. What should the loving devotees do in order to conquer you? He says, Jnane prayasam udapasya. First of all, that person should give up this idea of trying to speculate and understand the absolute truth, of trying to think of the Lord as impersonal, to think of oneself as God, and I want to merge into that absolute light. So we have to shed and give up all these false ideas. Then what's the next thing one should do? Jivanti, as long as one lives, Sanmukharitam, from the mouths of devotees of the Lord, Bhavadiya Vartam, one should hear your glories from the mouths of these devotees. Sthane Sthita, the next, one should be situated in one's own position. Whatever one may be doing, wherever one may be, one should just stay on in that position. Shrutigatam tanuvan manobhir. And one should offer obeisances to you and serve you with one's words, one's mind, and one's body. If one simply does this, then one will be able to conquer you. Brahma says this to Krishna. So there is no impediment. It doesn't mean that one has to renounce the world externally in order to attain success in devotion. Anyone in any state of life can do that. So this is the important message that we learn through this pastime of the Cool Mu Brahmana. He was in a family and he had family responsibilities, and there was no question of him artificially prematurely just giving up such responsibilities to go with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Mahaprabhu gave him this very nice instruction. So we should constantly chant the holy name and we should share it. This is another lesson that we learn. It's not enough that we chant, but we should also share with others. We should give this to others. That is what Mahaprabhu says, that we should become gurus. Becoming guru doesn't mean we have to sit on some big asana and have some very big title and have the official position of guru and have many people, offering us so much of respect and so on. No. Anyone who tells anybody about Krishna is a guru. So this is the larger understanding of the word guru. One time, one child who was the daughter of a devotee was tapping people in the audience and telling them, "Do you know Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead?" And Prabhupada said, "She is preaching." And just like Gopal was called Guru by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu because he gave good instructions. He was repeating the philosophy and the process correctly. So Mahaprabhu considered him as Guru for everyone. So even the age doesn't matter. One's status doesn't matter. So in this way, one should not only chant, one should share also with others. Another pastime that I want to narrate in terms of how one's social status doesn't matter and one can even initiate devotees and one can transform the world if one chants the holy name and Krishna Katha properly, is illustrated through the life of a great Acharya in our line called Narottam Das Thakur and his disciples. Narottam Das Thakur he was born in a very rich family of landlords, but he was not born in a Brahmana family. In traditional Indian life many years ago, this conception was very strong, that unless one is born in a Brahmana family, one is not eligible to be a spiritual master. One is not even eligible to expound on spiritual topics. This is only the exclusive prerogative of the Brahmanas who were born in Brahmana families. Recently in India, there was some controversy because some political leaders said only Brahmanas can speak about religion. So there was a big hue and cry. And of course, that is not true. And understandably, there was a hue and cry. So Narottam Das Thakur was not born in such a family. But the family was very pious. They were very devoted to Lord Krishna. And he went to Vrindavan. He took shelter of Lokanath Goswami. He took initiation from him. And Lokanath Goswami then handed him over to Srila Jiva Goswami to get shiksha or instructions. So Jiva Goswami trained up very nicely Narottam Das Thakur, Shyamananda Pandit and Srinivas Acharya. So these three devotees became very good friends. And then they learnt under Jiva Goswami properly. And after some years, Jiva Goswami sent them out on the first book distribution party. At that time, there was no Bhaktivedanta Book Trust. There was no printing machines available. So every book had to be written in hand and copied in hand. So it was a very laborious task. So the books of the 6 Goswamis were taken on an ox cart and they went out on this mission. Many adventures, transcendental adventures happened there. In any case, Narottam Das Thakur continued to preach in the land of Bengal. And the other two went to other places and started preaching. Now it so happened that because of his great devotion to Krishna, because of him being empowered by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because of his purity, he was also very learned and could sing very nicely. He began to influence many, many people who became his followers. They all became devotees of Lord Krishna. And amongst his followers were many people who were born in Brahmana families. And as the number of such caste Brahmanas increased, and they even took initiation from Narottam Das Thakur, then some of the other Brahmanas, the Smartha Brahmanas, started getting very alarmed. The word Smartha Brahmana refers to those Brahmanas who are ritualistic. They're only concerned about the Karma Kanda section of the Vedas. They do not have a very deep understanding of the Vedic scriptures, even though they may be able to recite these verses by memory. They may chant so many mantras, they may know how to perform different types of worship and sacrifices and so on. But they don't have devotion for the Lord. They don't understand that the real principle or purpose of the Vedic scriptures is that one should develop love for Krishna. So there is this very vital point that's missing in their understanding. They usually are materialistic in their approach towards religion and towards understanding of scriptures. And they're very much ridden with conceptions of importance of birth. So when they saw that Narottam Das Thakur, Narottam Das Thakur was making so many disciples, they got alarmed and they started conferring amongst themselves, and they said something must be done about this. So they went to the local king, whose name was Raja Narasimha, and they said, this has to stop. This is a great sacrilege against our religion. So when the king, who was a follower of these so-called learned Pandits, scholars and Brahmins, he also said, yes, so what should be done? So at that time, there was a very scholarly Brahmana whose name was Rup Narayan. He was so scholarly that he would go to different places and challenge other scholars in debate. And they would speak about various scriptural topics and he would defeat them comprehensively. So he was also called a Digvijayi Pandit. A Pandit means a scholar. Digvijay means one who has conquered all directions. So this Digvijay Pandit was also there, whose name was Rup Narayan. So the Brahmanas, along with Rup Narayan and the king, they set forth for the village of Narottam Das Thakur, which was called Kheturi. So as the assembly of Brahmanas along with the king were walking, they halted for the night in a particular village, which was on the way. At that time, some of the disciples of Narottam Das Thakur understood what these people were planning. They heard about it. So in advance, they had come to that village and they had disguised themselves. One person became like a potter and he set up a potter's shop. So he had so many mud pots that he was selling. Another became a seller of betel leaves, what's called pan or tambula. People like to chew betel leaves in India. So, and they set up all these little shops along the way, small stalls. And generally people who are poor have these little shops like that. Wealthy people wouldn't have it. So they set up their shops and they expected that when they come, they will need to buy mud pots to cook, because the Brahmanas will have to stop and they will cook food, and they cook in mud pots. So as they anticipated, the Brahmanas came and they knew that they would also like to buy some betel nut, betel leaves so that they can chew it after they've eaten their meals. So as the Brahmanas approached, then these disciples who were actually Brahmanas, Ganga Narayan Chakravarti, Ramachandra, etc. So they started conversing with these Brahmanas in pure chaste Sanskrit language. And the Brahmanas were astonished. Even the potters and the betel leaf sellers here, they're speaking such chaste, pure Sanskrit language. And then they started getting into some discussions with them. And a debate ensued on many scriptural topics. And these so-called potters and betel nut sellers and so on, they comprehensively defeated these big Pandits, the Brahmanas. And then the king looked at Digvijay Pandit Rup Narayan and he said, look, if this is how the disciples are, what is a guru going to be like? So I think it's better we retreat from here in haste. It doesn't look like a wise thing to do, to stay here and take such a risk of being humiliated in this way with Narottam Das Thakur. So all of you will be humiliated, and because of that, my name will also get ruined. And all of you will be even humiliated more because you have been defeated by someone who is not even a Brahmana. So then all of them fled from that place. So this is an example, a story from the scriptures that illustrates that the family of birth, the community of birth, these are inconsequential, immaterial. And that is the reason we also see many great devotees have been placed in such families deliberately to send this message out to the world. Yesterday we were speaking about Haridas Thakur. He was born in a Mlecha family, a Yavana family. What to speak of that? Consider the Ramayana. Who were the greatest devotees of Lord Ram? Monkeys and bears and vultures, not even human beings. So there are many, many such instances. So we can understand that birth is not such a consideration at all to have. And Mahaprabhu has also, of course, said, Kiva Vipra Kivanyasi Shudra Keninai Jai Krishna Tattvavetta Shai Guru Hoy. One may be a Brahmana, Vipra, Kivanyasi, Kiva Vipra, Kivanyasi, or one may be a sannyasi, Shudra Keninai, or one may be a so-called Shudra. It doesn't matter. Jai Krishna Tattvavetta, whoever knows the science of Krishna, as Srila Prabhupada translates it, is eligible to become Guru or spiritual master. So Srila Prabhupada and his spiritual master Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur preached very strongly on this point. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur one time went to a conference called by some Brahmanas. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur spoke as a representative of his father who could not go because he was ailing in old age. Initially, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur began glorifying the Brahmins, and they became very overjoyed to hear this. And then he started explaining what it means to be a real Brahman, and how the Brahman by birth conception is faulty, and how a devotee of the Lord is actually superior to one who claims to be a Brahmana merely by birth. To the extent that even a person who is worshipping the deity of the Lord, which is supposed to be preserved only for those in many communities, many sampradayas, till today, that opportunity to worship the deity of the Lord is given only to those who are born in Brahmana families. But that is not the teaching of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So in the worship of the deity even, if one has qualified oneself as a devotee, one has accepted proper initiation from a bona fide spiritual master in the proper sampradaya, then one is eligible even to worship the deity of the Lord. So coming to the point of the deity, I want to narrate some pastimes that illustrate this principle of how the deity also is non-different from Krishna. The deity is not simply a statue of stone or metal or wood, but the deity is directly the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And it is very important that one should deal with the deity with faith and love and devotion. One who has no devotion will see the deity as being merely a statue. But one who has faith and devotion will not see the Lord as a statue. He or she will see the deity as being directly Krishna. And therefore, such a devotee will have wonderful interactions with the deity, will get so many realizations whilst serving the deity, while meditating upon the deity. And that is a question of spontaneous devotion. Since we were speaking of some small boys earlier, here is another pastime of another small boy who was the son of an associate of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The associate of Mahaprabhu, his name was Mukunda Das. He was a physician, a Vaidya, a doctor. He was the brother of Narahari Sarkar, another great devotee and associate of Mahaprabhu. So he had a son whose name was Raghunandan. And one time he had to go out on an emergency call somewhere. You know, doctors are sometimes called for emergencies like this. So in a hurry, he told his son, who was very small, please feed Krishna. Make sure you feed Krishna. I'm going out for some work. I'll be back very shortly. So the little boy Raghunandan had no idea of the procedure of offering food to the deity. He didn't know any of the mantras or the procedures to chant. And he just thought that my father said, make Krishna eat. That means I should make Krishna eat. That's all. So he put the plate of what was cooked by his mother in front of the deity of Krishna. And he told Krishna in a commanding voice, eat. And Krishna didn't eat. Now Krishna ate, but he ate with his eyes, as Krishna usually does in the deity form. Angani yasya sakalendri vrittimanti pashyanti panti kalayam chiram jaganti. Brahma says that Krishna's transcendental body has senses, each of which can perform the functions of other senses. We can only see through our eyes, we can't taste through our eyes. But Krishna can taste through his eyes. So therefore, when we place bhoga or food in front of Krishna's deity, Krishna sees that, and his very act of seeing that food implies that he has eaten it, he tastes it. So this boy didn't know all these things. He thought that the deity should eat the food just like we eat the food. Lift it with our fingers and place it in the mouth and then chew it. So when Krishna ate with his eyes, but it didn't look like that to this boy, so he wanted the deity, whose name was Gopinath, to eat the food just like we eat. So he again said, eat, because he was afraid his father would come back and scold him, why haven't you made Krishna eat? So in great fear, Gopinath ate everything. He emptied the whole plate. And the boy was very satisfied. He was thinking, now my father will be very pleased when he comes back. So the father came back hungry and he said, so Raghunandan, please give me the Mahaprasadam. I think you made Krishna eat, right? He said, yes, I made Krishna eat and Krishna ate everything. Yes, that's nice that Krishna ate everything, so give me the Mahaprasadam. He said, no, there's nothing left because Krishna ate everything. And then he was wondering, Is he speaking the truth, or is he just like a boy, fickle-minded? Is he just speaking like children do? Sometimes children speak nonsensical things. So he had a doubt. Maybe what he's saying is right. So he thought, okay, let me test him. He cooked again, and he said, okay, now may Krishna eat, and I'm going out for some work. So he went out of the house, and there were some laddus, those nice sweet balls. And he went out of the house, he hid at the door, and when Raghunandan started offering the food, he quickly came back into the room. By this time, the deity had moved his hand, taken the laddu from the plate, and eaten half the laddu. And just at that time, the deity saw Mukunda at the door, immediately kept it back down in the plate. So when Mukunda came back, there was half a laddu in the plate. And the deity was still like that. Nothing, there was no activity. And then Mukunda, he became ecstatic and he embraced his son joyfully. And this pastime became very famous. From that day on, every day Raghunandan would feed laddus to Gopinath. That became a tradition. So the news spread to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's ears. One year when Mukunda Das went to Jagannath Puri, he had darshan of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Mahaprabhu jokingly asked him, so, you are Mukunda, the father, and Raghunandan is your son? Or are you Mukunda the son and is Raghunandan your father? So who is the father and who is the son? And without hesitation, Mukunda replied, actually I am the son and Raghunandan is my father. And Mahaprabhu said, yes, whoever has intense devotion is to be considered senior to us. It's a very important point again. Sublime faith that this little boy had in the deity. That is why the four Kumaras prefer to live as small boys, even though they are the senior-most sons of Brahma. Because when you grow up, you become complicated. When you are young, you are very innocent. So you have innocent faith. So therefore, young Raghunandan had innocent faith in the deity. That's the kind of faith we should have in the deity. I will tell you one little experience I had before winding up. We'll leave some few minutes for questions. One time I was in one temple and I came into the temple hall again after the morning Bhagavatam class to take darshan of the deities, and I met one gentleman who I was seeing for the first time there. So he had darshan, and then I asked him, I introduced myself, we were talking, how are you, nice to see you, please come again. And I asked him what is his name. He said, my name is Mukunda. So I said, really? Just this morning, I spoke the story of Mukunda, who was a great devotee of Mahaprabhu and Krishna, and his son called Raghunandan. He said, really? My son's name is also Raghunandan. Just that morning, I had narrated this very story. And here comes along this man, whose name is Mukunda, and his son is also Raghunandan. So anyway, this was a small little incident that happened. So there are many, many, many such stories like this, which means that when we interact, we should remember that we are not looking at some statue. We are looking at the Lord directly. So these are the lessons that we can learn from such pastimes. So we have 10 minutes left. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. If you raise your hand, the mic can come. Please be very brief and to the point in your questions.
Maharaj, I want to ask, related to the topic which was spoken yesterday. This is regarding Haridas Thakur. You said he was beaten in 22 marketplaces. Now, at Lord Chaitanya was protecting him. In our case, right, how we can, get that compassionate nature is my first
So the first point is, how can we also develop that compassionate nature? Number one, by just doing our Krishna conscious activities, our sadhana, our chanting, reading, hearing, our regular devotional service, automatically by performing devotional service, these Vaishnava qualities will emerge in course of time. It may not happen overnight, but gradually there will be a change of heart, number one. Number two, by hearing such inspiring life stories of great Vaishnavas like Haridas Thakur, we also feel inspired to practice this in our life, even though we may not be spontaneously feeling that compassion. We act in obedience to the orders of the acharyas. The acharyas have compassion, but if we have obedience to their orders, then we will also develop that quality of compassion. And your second question about how will Krishna protect us? Yes? Yes, Krishna is always protecting his devotees. Name bhaktaha pranashyati. My devotee will never perish. However, we should understand also that Krishna's protection can happen in different ways, and those ways may not match our expectations. We may expect Krishna, for example, to protect our money, and Krishna may think that's not the best for us. In his perfect wisdom, Krishna may decide to take away our money. So we should not think he is not protecting us. So protection should not be seen from a material point of view. Krishna will do what is best for us so that we can move ahead on the path of Krishna consciousness. And in certain circumstances, he will also actually physically protect us. But ultimately, because our body is going to be destroyed, so we should not expect that we will never die because Krishna should protect us. No. This body will also disappear one day. So we should understand that if we simply practice Krishna consciousness, Krishna will do what is good for us, what is right and beneficial for us. And that is Krishna's protection to us. Rakshishyati iti vishvaso. We should have the firm faith that Krishna will protect us. Okay? Any other questions? Yes. Yes, you can speak a little loudly and you can still pass the mic.
Maharaj, you mentioned this way, from yesterday's class, that you mentioned about the compassion. But the examples that you gave, Haridas Thakur, Vasudeva, Ramanujay, they're on a very pure goodness platform. And you also said that compassion means compassion. So, how to, if we have to develop and exhibit that compassion quality, should that be completely exhibited only in the mode of pure goodness, as we can see in the pure devotees, or while in the mode of passion, ignorance, passion, and just goodness, will the degree of compassion also varies?
Well, naturally, the more elevated one is in Krishna consciousness, the more pure will one's compassion be. As I was mentioning yesterday, that Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that there is compassion on three levels. Compassion on the platform of the body, compassion on the platform of the mind, and compassion on the platform of the soul. Although we are sensitive when it comes to sufferings on the level of the body and mind, as devotees, we do not like to see anybody suffering. So we like to help people who are suffering on the body and mind, but we know that ultimately compassion has to be on the platform of the soul. So we have to give Krishna consciousness to people to make a permanent solution. So the more Krishna conscious we are, the more our compassion will be situated firmly in that third stage. It will come by natural progression as we continue our devotional service. Okay? Any other questions? Yes.
Maharaj, how do you select a Krishna deity? that in India,
How does one select a Krishna deity?
yes.
Okay. Well, first of all, there are many places. One should get blessings before one does that. One should not just go ahead and start getting deities and then ask for blessings from devotees. One should, because it's a fairly serious thing to have deities in your house. So take blessings first. Secondly, decide which type of deities that one needs good advice. If one is beginning Krishna consciousness, one is not initiated, it is better to not have Radha Krishna deities. And with blessings, one may have Gaur-Nitai deities or Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra deities. Or one may keep pictures which are also not different from the deities. And in terms of where to procure them from, yes, in India there are many places. You can get them in Mayapur, in Vrindavan, and those who are keen to get deities for the temples, they go to Rajasthan, to Jaipur. There are many sculptors who specialize in making deities. These are the different places you can get. And in South India also there are different people who make deities of different metals. So many different places these are available. Okay? Yes. You can ask.
Maharaj, in like Krishna's interaction with people in general, or Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's interaction?
We see that in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's nature and the pastime and mood, there is like lots of compassion, tolerance, and forgiveness, like Jagai and Madhai pastime, for example. So with Krishna, he doesn't tolerate any insults to his devotees, or he himself is like very strict, whereas Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is liberal and he wants to give chance to all the conditioned souls. So my question is that, like, we are now following Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's lineage, and we're trying to imbibe those qualities, but at the same time, we are not stones. We have got our limits also to tolerate. Like you just mentioned, our limit increases with our sadhana, that limit increases. But how do we imbibe that we are in the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's line, and Krishna is a.
We just follow Mahaprabhu's instructions. And Srila Prabhupada has given us a perfect balanced program for what we should do as followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the most merciful incarnation of Krishna. He is even more merciful than Krishna in Vrindavan. So therefore we are followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and we just follow his instructions as given by our acharyas, who are his exemplary followers, and we will attain all success. All good qualities, everything will come. Simply follow what Srila Prabhupada has given all of us in this movement, and everything will work out fine. And as Prabhupada said to one devotee one time, don't look for new solutions to problems. The problems are the same, they just names and details change, the solutions are the same. Don't always look for new things. Same thing, chant Hare Krishna, same mantra. Okay, so it's 8:30 now. Thank you very much for having been a wonderful audience. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, all the devotees. Thank you very much for the quorum today. Thank you. Just a quick, please remain seated quickly. We've got some important announcements to make, and there's a gift as well for the kids. So please maintain the silence. Just a quick thank you note, firstly, for the organizers, the setup team, the decoration team, especially the child minding team and the audio video Facebook Live team, and to the Kirtan team for very more in Kirtan. Sorry, the cows. Please remember the cows. We love the cows. Okay, so and especially thank you to Maharaj as well for illustrating to us some great personalities and their great lives, guiding and inspiring us. Thank you for that, Maharaj. Now, there's a quick thing. For the kids who've been in the children's room, we'll request Maharaj to have a quick picture with them as a gesture of encouragement to them. They've been finding themselves very nicely. Now, finally, when you're leaving, please make sure that you do not stand outside the hall. That you leave, please maintain silence. Today is Sunday night, so we have to be conscious of the neighbors. Please, if you're gonna wait outside for a lift or a car, somebody to pick you up, go on the other side of the road. Is everybody with me? Please do not create a noise outside. Vacate the hall. Only the cleanup team will stay here, and all the other devotees would leave immediately. First, Maharaj would go now to the children's room. We'll take one picture there. The photography team can lead the way. They can take Maharaj's Maharaj to the room. And after the picture is being taken with your kids, please leave quietly. If you have to talk on the other side of the road. If you have to wait for a lift, on the other side of the road, not outside the hall. Not everybody. You won't meet everybody. You'll have a set of team. I guess the first step is then please lift Maharaj.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Bol.
Please make the way for Maharaj to move to the children's room first.